Good morning or good afternoon or evening, wherever you are. It's late morning for me here in Australia. Welcome to another Acoustic Guitar Talk live stream, where we are here to talk about all things guitar. And today we're going to be talking about arpeggios, as you well know, because you are here and you've seen the promotion for the stream. Before we get into our stream, give us a quick hello in the chat if you can, where you're from, where you're watching from today would be great. Talking about the chat, if you have any questions throughout this stream today, please put them in the chat and we'll do our very best to get to them. All up for the engagement and any questions you might have about our topic today being arpeggios for guitar. So let's get straight into it. So I've got a very, very special guest here today with me to talk about arpeggios and how to use them on guitar, and that is guitar breakthrough specialist Tom Hess. Good evening, I think, Tom Hess, for you. How are you?
Good, Simon. Yes, evening here, morning for you.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to getting into the topic of arpeggios, which is very, very broad. It's just like scales and so forth. There's a billion things you can do with them, but it would be great to get your perspective on arpeggios. And you've taught so many people over so many years now. I'm sure you know the common misconceptions perhaps about arpeggios, or the common, ruts people get themselves in with arpeggios. So maybe just to begin, if we've got people here today who are saying, what is an arpeggio? Why do you need to know an arpeggio? What would you say if someone's asking you that?
Well, in terms of what arpeggios are, the simple definition is they're the notes of a chord played separately, one at a time. So on an electric guitar, lead guitar, generally you'd play them, you'd separate them one at a time. You could, if you clean this up, or on an acoustic guitar, you could, form a chord, and then, you just pick each one, each string, and then that's an arpeggio too. So whether the notes ring out together or they're played independently, separately, that's basically what an arpeggio is. It's just notes of a chord essentially played separately. As far as why you would want to learn them, well, I mean, that's almost like asking, why would you want to play guitar, or why would you want to know a lick? There's so much that you can do with arpeggios, and but there's also a lot of things that people may not realize about arpeggios in terms of how to use them or why you would use them. So, for example, if I pick up the guitar and I play an arpeggio, like let's say this one, someone might say, "Oh, that sounds like some rock or heavy metal thing or whatever," but it's not. Arpeggios are not specific to any particular style. You can use them in blues or jazz or country or rock or really anything else.
Yeah.
So certainly, if Simon, if you played an arpeggio on an acoustic guitar, it's not going to sound like what I just did. It's just going to be, well, it depends on what you do. It's just going to be
Sure.
nice and clean, and
Yes.
no one think, oh, it's heavy metal or something.
Exactly. I mean, I would, of course, yes, arpeggiate chords, but I could also have a chord change like that. It's an A7 to a D7, and I could target the notes of that to sort of outline the chord, the harmony of the chords. So essentially play through the harmonies, so you could solo and still hear all the chord changes, even though they might not be there. They're more implied through what you're doing. So yeah, certainly lots of ways to approach arpeggios.
Yeah, so you just played, what was it, A7 to D?
To D, yeah, D7, yeah, yes.
A7 to D7?
Yes.
Yeah, so on a lead guitar, you could do the same thing. That's basically A7 there. And you got D7. So same thing, just done on different instruments.
Yes.
And it's a different sound, but the concept is exactly the same. Just
Yes.
applying it in different ways.
Yes. So then what about ways to learn arpeggios, to visualize them on the guitar? What's a good approach you've found to, let's say you're just starting out on arpeggios and you're thinking, okay, I want to learn arpeggios. what's a good way to start and to visualize them? Because like anything, it can be very overwhelming.
Yeah, well, it's the way that I learned them originally is not the way that I teach them to others today. So I'll basically tell you both ways. So the way that I learned them, and I was learning these sort of on my own, a long time ago, was the first thing I learned was a 2-string arpeggio. So if you got, let's say, E minor, on the top 2 strings, I'm playing the notes E, G, and B, just starting on B. This is on the 19th fret. Then G, 15th fret. Then E, the 17th fret of the next string. So that's the E minor arpeggio. So I learned that. And then I wanted to, expand it, and I didn't know what to do. So someone had told me, hey, you can take those notes and you can play them an octave lower. So if we take the B note and we play it an octave lower, that would put us on the 3rd string, fret 16. Those are both B notes. So we can go B, G, E, B. So my 2-string arpeggio that I knew became a 3-string arpeggio. So then I realized, okay, well, if we can play the B note an octave lower, we could probably play the other notes an octave lower. So if we play this G note an octave lower, that puts us on string number 4, fret 17. Then we can play the E note an octave lower, which we can play at string 5, fret 19. And you can keep going down from there, just playing those notes, an octave lower each time. So it seems like a lot of notes, but it's just 3. Just the same 3 notes. So you start with a 2-string arpeggio, or I started with a 2-string arpeggio. And just went 1 octave lower. Then went to the next note. Then the next. Then the next. Then the next. Then the next. So that's how I learned arpeggio, starting on 2 strings, and then just built from there by playing the same notes, just adding them an octave lower as they occurred. So that's how I learned them. The way that I teach them is a little bit different. Generally, I'll teach most students 3-string arpeggios because the patterns are fairly easy to play. So like going back to E minor, I would just teach this, and then I would teach the same E minor arpeggio down here. And then again down here, and then down here. So I'm playing these arpeggios in what are called different inversions. This way the student can see, oh, this is E minor, this is E minor, this is E minor, this is E minor. So anytime that you are playing over an E minor chord, you can grab any one of those. You can connect them together and just smoothly connect them together. But the point is, I would generally teach the 3-string shapes and then the 5-string shapes, and then 6 and 4 and 2 and et cetera. Because what I want to do with the students is get them to see these arpeggios connect on the guitar so they can use them wherever they are on the fretboard at that time. But as again, the way that I learned them was 2 strings, and then we just add a string until we got them all. So that was basically my approach. Well, I mean, it wasn't mine. It just worked out that way. That I figured them out that way. But
Yeah, I think
it was very inefficient. It was a very inefficient.
I think most things I teach these days are not the way I did things, for the most part, because you learn better, more efficient ways to do things, right? Just through experience, or you find a great teacher, etc. There's certain things that happen along the way. But I think, I mean, I learned them definitely as big, 5-string or 6-string shapes, which was fine. But I think if you break them down to smaller little shapes, they become a little bit more usable than trying to deal with this big shape. And it's kind of like when you're learning a scale, you don't always want to just start from the lowest note in the arpeggio and go up to the highest and then just have one way to play it. If you're learning little string sets, then they overlap and you can get in and out of the arpeggio at different points, not always from the lowest note to the highest note possible in any given position. So I think that's a good approach. Little, just like when learning triad shapes and things like this, learning in three-string sets is a good idea. So in terms of connecting this stuff to scales and chords and things like that, because I think anytime we learn something new, we want to be able to connect it to previous knowledge where possible. Or if knowledge comes in after that, then we can connect it back to the arpeggios. But do you have particular ways or recommendations for kind of anchoring this down onto the fretboard to, so you can access it and perhaps blend it or integrate it with other things?
Sure. Well, yes. And I can interpret your question in a few different ways, but
Sure.
I'm going to interpret it this way. But if you were going somewhere else with this, let me know. So
Sure.
let's imagine that we have a series of chords, okay? So I'm basically playing the circle of fifths progression in A minor. So the chords are A minor, D minor, G, C, F, B flat, and then E, back to A minor. So let's say you had those chords, and there's nothing special about these chords. You could take any chord progression you want, G, D, C, A minor, G minor, whatever, doesn't really matter. You can do whatever you want. But if you've got a given chord progression, it's very useful to be able to find where those corresponding arpeggios are to those chords and then play them. So for example, what I just played, if we put it in arpeggios, there's the A minor arpeggio. Now for D minor, I could go way down here. Or I could say, well, if I'm already in this position, I'm up by the 12th fret, where is there a D minor arpeggio in this area? So I don't have to go from here to up here or down here, okay? So if I want to stay close, now I'm in position. I'm starting around the 12th fret. Now for the G chord, I've got to find a G arpeggio that's near where I'm at. So there's one that starts right here on fret 10. And then the next chord I think was C. So we've got a C arpeggio right in position. So my point is this, that when you have a chord progression, you want to be able to find where the arpeggio is that corresponds with the chords. So you follow the chords along. And then you can hear those chords in the arpeggio part. Now, when I first learned this many years ago, this blew me away. I realized I can actually hear the chords in the arpeggios. I can hear this when doing the arpeggio. And so it sounded more melodic to me than just learning one arpeggio and then just going up and down and up and down. And it just ended up being a fast lick that I really couldn't use. So now the challenge here is finding where the arpeggios are in the position that you're already in so that you're not going like this, like shifting bar chords up and down. Okay, so that requires you to learn where the arpeggio inversions are. I referenced that earlier when I played the E minor ones on 3 strings. So this is something that you would learn if we wanted to play the same thing on 3 strings. Etc. You'd find where those are. And this is a little bit of a longer conversation than we have right now to go into how do you find all those. We'll be here for a while going into that. But I want to talk about, your question was, how would you tie it together with chords? And we're just simply playing the notes of those chords separately and just following the chord progression around A minor to D minor. And it sounds pretty melodic, pretty musical already. And all we're doing is playing the arpeggios just straight. that answer your question, Simon? I mean, without going into a lot of detail about where to find them.
Sure, yes, because it could be it could be a very, very long stream if going down certain avenues. We've got a question here. How do you make arpeggios sound musical? So many ways. I think what you've just demonstrated there sounds pretty musical. But in general, how would you answer that question? Where would you go with someone asking that?
This is a fantastic question. Thank you, Michael, for asking it. I'm not sure if I know this person or not, but just somebody named Michael asked the question. Good question. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. One is you can just follow the chords. That's what I was just doing. Okay. But another thing you can do is you can add notes, one note or maybe two notes or any other number of notes to a basic arpeggio. So let's take, for example, an E major arpeggio. So we got E major up here. So I'm just going to play it on 3 strings. So it sounds good. It's just a simple triad. But what if we added notes to the arpeggio so we can create more melodic like lines other than just playing the notes of the arpeggio? So let's say we added maybe the 4th note of an E major scale, because remember the notes of the E major scale the E major arpeggio would be the 1st, 3rd, and 5th from the E major scale. In other words, E, G sharp, and B. That's what I'm playing here, E, G sharp, and B. But if we added the 4th note from an E major scale, there's the 4th note, that's A, we can add the A notes to the arpeggio. Now we have this. That sounds pretty melodic to my ear. And all we did was add one note to the existing triad. We just added the 4th note. Now, that sounds pretty good to my ear. Sounds pretty musical. Sounds pretty melodic. But we could have chosen any note from the E major scale. It did not need to be the 4th note. We've got the 1, the 3, and the 5 already in the arpeggio. Let's add a different one. Let's try. Let's add the 2nd note from an E major scale. That would be F sharp. So we'll play the same triad, but now let's add the F sharp, the 2nd. So there it is. So now we're just adding F sharp there every time. Sounds pretty musical to me. And I'm just going straight down or straight up the arpeggio. We're not even doing anything fancy with it. We're just going straight up or straight down, adding the note. We could add a different note. We could add the 7th. That should sound pretty nice. There's the 7th, D sharp. So that is an E major 7th. We could add the 6th. We could add anything we want. You can, if you wanted to alter the notes, if you wanted to add, let's say, flat 6th, you could do that. That's a great sound. So I played the flatted 6th, which is not part of the E major scale. It's part of the 5th mode of melodic minor or other modes as well. So it's a cool thing you can do. You just take the arpeggio you already know, and you add one note, any note you want. They all are going to sound pretty good. Of course, based on the musical situation you're in or what chord you're playing over, some you might like the sound of better than others, but it's a good, easy way to make the arpeggio sound more musical, as Michael was asking about, without even doing anything. You're not even adding any phrasing, really. You're just playing it straight, and it's already starting to have more musical taste to it. So what would happen if you did that on maybe 2 chords? If we had, let's say, E and A. So we add something, I'll go back to adding the 4th on the E chord. And now we have an A chord, and we do the same thing, we add the 4th there. Now in this case, the 4th would be raised, it'd be a sharp 4. And then back to the E. A, E. So all we did was we add the 4th note to each corresponding chord or arpeggio. The A in this case, because it's the 4 chord in the key, the 4th is raised, it's 1 fret higher. It's here. There it is again. For the E chord, it's a regular 4, it's not raised, it's right here. There it is again. Very cool, it's very melodic. It's, Alexa says infinite possibilities. Yeah, maybe not infinite, but certainly it's a very, very big number. Just by adding in, 1 note or 2 or whatever you want to the arpeggio, and it sounds really cool. So that's one way that you can make it sound more musical. Another way you can use I'm sorry, were you going to say something, Simon, before we move on?
No. Keep going. This is great. Yep.
Yeah, another thing you can do, and I call this adding fire. If let's say you have, a very simple little melodic phrase that you want to play. Okay, maybe something like, let's say you had those 3 notes. Okay, those are nice. I mean, I like that sound at least. Okay, but there's not a lot of, we can add more fire or more drama to it by sticking an arpeggio anywhere inside there. And the easiest place to do this is right at the beginning. Okay, so we're going to go from this note is F sharp, that note is C sharp, which we're going to bend to D, and then we'll release it back down. Okay, so right now I'm sort of implying like a D chord in the key of F sharp. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking D major right now. Okay, but we can take this arpeggio, and now we have a little bit of fire. All I'm doing is I'm playing an F sharp minor arpeggio on 3 strings. And now we go up to the bend. So it sounds a little bit more dramatic, at least to me, because it's got a little bit of fire on it now. That's different than just this. I mean, that's cool too, but I like adding a little fire. Now we could add a little more if you want to make the arpeggio bigger. Instead of playing a 3-string arpeggio, we could play a 5-string arpeggio, starting here. So you can play it, with slow or a medium speed, or faster. Okay, and you got this little moment of fire that helps the phrase come alive, and it's really useful when you have a phrase that's slow, like this. I mean, that's pretty slow. There's not a lot going on, right? Just that little bit of fire makes it sound a little bit more dramatic, at least to my ears. You may like it, you may not like it, but it's one possibility, is to just add a little fire. The next thing that I would say is, we kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, is just outlining chords. So, for example, let's say, here, let me play something for you and see if you think, in your opinion, this sounds musical to you. And all I'm going to do is play straight 16th notes. So the rhythm is just flat. There's nothing going on rhythmically. I mean, nothing interesting rhythmically. It's just 16th notes and that's it. But how does this sound to your ear? Does it sound musical to you? Hopefully you are perceiving that as musical. That is a small excerpt from a Bach violin concerto that I just transcribed for guitar. And all this is, it's A minor, 1, 3, 5, 8, or 1, just straight up the A minor arpeggio. Then the next arpeggio doesn't look like one. It looks kind of like a scale, but it's not. It's an E7 arpeggio. On the second string, it's frets 12, 15. Next string, frets 12 and 16. So now that outlines this chord, E7. So we have A minor going to E7. Then A minor coming down. Let's see, what is it? Yeah, that's sort of implied E7 again. There's 7, there's flat 6, there's 5, there's 3. So basically, we're the whole time we're implying this. Then we repeat. Then I just moved everything up to D minor and did the same thing. Okay, actually, I shouldn't say I moved it to D minor. Bach moved it to D minor. Okay, but the point is, you're just taking a chord progression. I mean, it's really simple, right? I mean, A minor, E, A minor, E, A minor, E, A minor. Then D minor, A, D minor, A, D minor, A, D minor. Sounds pretty boring kind of when you play it like that. But when you add the melodies, the arpeggios, it sounds more musical. It just sings. I mean, at least to my ears, it sounds really nice. Now, why? The question is why? What makes that sound good? Well, you might say, well, didn't you just tell us that it's the arpeggios that make it sound good? Well, not exactly. There's something else going on there that is a big, big, big clue to taking arpeggios that you know or you learn or will learn in the future and make them sound more melodic. Now, let me show you, I'm going to tell you what the answer is, but before I do it, let me change the arpeggios to still be the same chords. Okay, I'm not going to change what the notes I'm playing, but I'm going to change something about how the arpeggios are played. And when I change that one thing, I think that most of you will probably think, oh, that's not as good. That's not as cool as the original thing that Bach did. The Bach version was better. Yes, you should think it's better. But let me show you the little bit lesser cool way. So it's still kind of cool, but it's not as cool. And I'll explain to you why in a moment. What if we did this? Not as cool, is it? Right? Not as good. Not as cool as this is. Why? Why is it not as good? Why is the Bach version better? The magic word here, the concept, which is extremely useful, is contour, the melodic contour. So when I took the arpeggios and made it not as interesting, what I did was I played an A minor arpeggio and went up. Then I played an E arpeggio and went up. Then I went back to A minor and played it up. Then E up. And I just kept doing it. And the contour is exactly the same. Straight up, straight up, straight up, straight up, straight up. Okay, that's what the contour was when I played it, and it did not sound as good. At least in my opinion, it was not as good. But the Bach version does not do that. What does the Bach version do? The A minor goes up. You know what? I'll tell you what. If you've got a piece of paper and a pen in front of you, all those listening now, let me play it again. Don't watch. Don't look at me now. Just listen. And you try to draw the contour of every arpeggio. Try and draw it. Just draw an arrow up or down. Okay. Every arpeggio is either going up or it's going down. Okay. Here we go. Ready? So you're not looking at me now. You're listening, and you're going to draw the contour. Here we go. Let me do that again. You know what? I think I made a mistake. Their contour should still be correct, but I think I actually played. I changed one of the arpeggios. Let me do it again. So your contour should basically look like this now. We went up, then we went up again. Then we went down. Then we went down again. Then we went up. Then we went up again. Then we go down. And then we played the final note. This is what the contour of the Bach version looked like. Up, up, down, down, up, down, and then flat. Now, there's nothing special about that particular contour. I'm not saying if you take any arpeggios and use this contour, it's going to sound awesome every time. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, what I'm saying is it's not the same. It's not all up and it's not all down. And it's not up, down, up, down, up, down. It's not this either. Okay, it changes. Let me give you another example to illustrate why the contour matters and how it can sound cool. I'm going to play something else. Okay, it's a little arpeggio thing I created a long time ago. Okay, and also an A minor. And just for now, just listen to it. Okay. Let me slow it down. Okay, now I'm going to play a little faster again. And what I want you to listen for is I want you to make a decision. I want you to decide what is the most aggressive part of that whole thing. There's one little piece, one little section that is more aggressive than all the rest. Okay? So let's see where you think the most aggressive part is. And let's see if we all agree or not. Here we go. Let's see. I think for most of you, you identified the most aggressive part as the last two arpeggios. Okay, the last two. I'll play it again and I'll show you. But before I do, let's explain why. What makes the last two arpeggios more aggressive, more fiery than all the others? Okay, let me tell you what it's not. It's not the arpeggios that I played. It's not the chords they implied, because those two arpeggios were already played previously. There's nothing special about them. But here is basically the contour. The first arpeggio goes down. The second one goes up. The next one goes down. Okay. The next one goes up. Let me make sure this is actually what's happening. Yeah. The fifth one goes down. Okay. The sixth one goes up. So far, this is the pattern. Okay. Down, up, down, up, down, up. This is our pattern. That's one arpeggio. There's the next. There's the next. There's the next. There's the next. There's next. But the final two break this pattern. And it's that breaking of the pattern which makes those last two arpeggios more aggressive than all the others. Okay. And that pattern is down, down. Last two are down, down. Okay. Take a listen. You'll hear down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down. And this right here is where all the fire is. Okay. Let me play it again. I'll play it a little slower. It's this. That's where the fire is. Why is that? Why is it that these are the most aggressive? Because we broke the pattern. See, the listener is expecting patterns, and we're giving him a pattern. Down, up, down, up, down, up. So the ear is expecting another down, up, and then nope, denied. You're going to get two downs. And that's more aggressive. We could have done two ups, also would have been more aggressive, because we break the pattern of expectation. So anytime that you want to make something more interesting or add a little fire, change the contour based on the pattern that you set up. And that will do that almost every time. Okay. Now here's a really great exercise, you can do. Anyone can do this. You have to at least know a couple of arpeggios. You got to be able to know at least how to play two arpeggios. If you know how to play two arpeggios, you can do this. If you don't know how to play two arpeggios, go learn some arpeggios first and then come back and do this. Okay. And that's basically this. You get a piece of paper, you get yourself a pen, and you don't even think about what notes you're going to play, what arpeggios, what chords. Don't even worry about that. Just draw contours. Up arrows and down arrows. That's it. Just do that. Okay. And experiment with different combinations of down and up. Once you do that, then you go back to your guitar and you might take two chords, G and C or F and A minor, doesn't matter what chord you're using for this exercise. And you now play the various patterns, the contour lines that you wrote. Okay. And you'll come up with some really interesting ways of using arpeggios that you probably would not normally have done. So when I played this, that's exactly how this was created. I literally, when I first created this, I literally just pen, paper, drew the contours. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down. And then I tried it. You can do it with those two chords. You can do it with any two chords you want, but it's going to have a cool, similar result. Now, for those of you who are a little bit more advanced and you want to do more than just play three-string arpeggios, you can do the same thing with bigger lines. So let me draw you an example. All right. Take a look at this. I'm just making this up now, okay? Big arrow up, big arrow down. So this might represent maybe a 5-string arpeggio or a 6-string arpeggio, something with a lot of notes, okay? Big arpeggio going up, big arpeggio coming down. Then we're going to do a little arpeggio going up and down, another little arpeggio going up and down, and then a big arpeggio going up, and then we're going to sustain the last note, okay? So it looks like we might be doing maybe a 5 or 6-string arpeggio going up, 5 or 6-string arpeggio going down, then maybe a 2 or a 3-string arpeggio going up and down, and then again, let's say 3 strings up and down, and then a big 5-string or 6-string arpeggio going up, and then you sustain the top note. So let's try this, and let's just see what would happen if we put some chords to it, okay? So I'll play E minor. I'll play E minor up, and I'll play E minor down, okay? Then I'll play B minor, B as in boy, B minor going up and down, a little one. And then I'll play A sharp diminished or F sharp 7 or whatever, some kind of dominant function chord here, okay? And then we'll end up on B minor up here, and we'll sustain some note of the high, the B minor chord. So E minor up, E minor down, B minor up and down, little one. And then I think I said A sharp diminished or A sharp diminished 7. I already forgot what I said, okay? And then B minor going up. So let's just try and hear what that sounds like, okay? So here's our E minor. Now we're going to do a little B minor. Now A sharp diminished 7. Now B minor going up. And sustain the top note. So I was a little bit sloppy. Let me try it again. Let me try it one more time. A little better. Okay. So you hear that kind of sounds a little bit like the Bach example I played earlier. It's a different key, it's different arpeggios, different contours. But what makes it similar is the fact that we don't have the same contour all the time. So it makes arpeggios that would otherwise be kind of cool, but not that interesting. It makes it more interesting because we have played with the listener's expectations. Once we go up and down here, the big arpeggio, what is the listener expecting to hear next? Another arpeggio that goes up and down on 5 strings or 6 strings or whatever. And then what's he going to expect next? Another one that goes up and down. That's what the ear is latching on to patterns. And we're going to deny that pattern. We're going to set up a pattern in his mind or her mind, and then we're going to deny it. We're going to go up. I'm going to give you this, but I'm going to give you a tiny little version of it. Then we're going to do it again. So now it looks like we're setting up a new pattern, and we're going to break the pattern again, and we're just going to go up and we're going to stay there. Okay? That helps make it sound more melodic. Let me try and play it one more time. I'll play a little slower. So we're setting up patterns, and then we're breaking the patterns and setting up a new pattern. Then we're breaking that pattern, and then we're finishing up like this. So you could do this all day long. If you know some arpeggios, you could take the same thing and just change the chords. If you want to do it in a major key, great, do it in a major key. If you want to do it, over a 12-bar blues and you want to play 7th arpeggios, cool, do that. If you want to do it in a country style or in a jazz context, cool, do that. The style doesn't matter. Okay, I'm a rock guy, so it sounds rock or whatever when I do it. But if Simon picks up his acoustic guitar and does a finger style, it's going to sound like anything that Simon plays. There's nothing special about lead guitar here or anything that we're doing here. You can do on an acoustic guitar, you can do in finger style, you can do in jazz, blues, country, rock, heavy metal, neoclassical, doesn't matter. So those are some ways that we can take things which arpeggios are inherently musical, but we can make them more musical by doing very, very simple things. Add a note to the arpeggio, okay? Add a little fire to the arpeggio. Talked about adding a little fire. Quick little arpeggio before the melody. Okay. We talked about just matching arpeggios to chords, a circular fifths progression I did earlier. Then we're talking about different melodic contours. You can do them in one direction only. Okay, it's a bunch of different things you can do. They're easy to do, but try this. Try drawing different contours and then assigning any chords you want in any particular key, and just try it. And you'll find that it's going to sound pretty cool and pretty different than what you normally hear people playing when they play arpeggios. Because what you hear often is up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. You hear a lot of that. A lot of up, down, up, down, up, down. Nothing wrong with that. But if you want to do something a little bit different and you don't want to have to learn any new arpeggios or any new techniques, there you go.
Awesome. That is great. Really good. Some ways that, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily approach it, but could absolutely do and will. Try those things out. Thank you so much, Tom Hess. That is fantastic, as always. I do believe you've got something here that people can grab, which would go hand in hand with what you've been talking about today. Yes?
Yeah, I do. It's called, this is a free download. It's called the Endless Killer Arpeggio Guitar Licks. And what this does is it will show you how to turn any arpeggio that you know, any arpeggio, into dozens and dozens of highly creative sweep picking guitar licks, even if you can't sweep pick fast yet. Now, if I know there's a lot of acoustic players here, because if you're following Simon, there's a great chance that you play acoustic guitar and fingerstyle and do all the great stuff that Simon plays and teaches. So you can apply all of these principles to acoustic guitar, fingerstyle. I'm using an electric guitar with a pick, using sweep picking, but you don't have to. You can do it fingerstyle. You can do it any way you want. The main idea is how to take a simple arpeggio and make it sound really cool with a lot of different variations. It's very easy. So, and this is totally free. You can check it out at the link that you see on the screen, and you can download it right now. It costs you nothing.
Awesome. Quickly, I also have something probably a little bit different, but on the same topic, of course, which is arpeggios. Probably, as the title of the book suggests, a little bit more of a jazzy sort of context. Don't let that throw you off if you're not into jazz. But apart from laying out, some common 5 and 6 string arpeggio patterns in this ebook, I show you some ways to apply them. And just one quick way I'll demonstrate is pretty much, I didn't want to do that. Pretty much what Tom Hess was talking about before in regards to adding notes to arpeggios. One kind of different way of getting the same sort of result is to superimpose an arpeggio. So it sounds complicated, but it's not. If I have an E chord, and I'll just drone an E to have a reference here, and I play a C sharp minor arpeggio, which is diatonic to the key of E, I've now got an E6 arpeggio effectively, because I'm adding in the 6th. It's just in there if I play a C sharp minor arpeggio. So by playing an arpeggio that comes from the key, but isn't the actual corresponding arpeggio to the chord, you can get extended chord tones to that arpeggio. I could play a D sharp minor arpeggio over the top of D sharp minor, over the top of the E, and it gives me a Lydian sound. So that's not even diatonic, so it doesn't have to be diatonic necessarily. So by superimposing arpeggios on top of chords, and a good way to start is just stay diatonic to the key. So in the key of E, C sharp minor is a diatonic chord. Really, any chord that's belonging to the same family, the same key, the arpeggio of that chord will work on any other chord that is in that key too. It'll just give you a range, a mix of chord tones. So with the C sharp, I still have an E. I have my G sharp and my B, so there's E in it, but I also have my C sharp, which gives me that 6th. Or if it was another, diatonic arpeggio, to give me a different chord tone or different mixture of chord tones to the E and extended tones. So it's just a different approach to get basically the same result. And that's a big part of that ebook. So I'll put that in, I'll put links into the chat here so you can check them out. Thank you so much, Tom Hess. I know you've got a class to get off to here now. So thank you very much for your time again.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. Great stuff. Great to get different perspectives, and hopefully everyone here has, got a little bit from this in terms of arpeggios. They are great to use in any style. So, take them, create with them, and have fun with them. Thank you everyone for being here as always. Really appreciate you coming along. And thank you again, Tom Hess.
My pleasure. Thank you, Simon.
No worries. And we'll see you guys very soon on the next Acoustic Guitar Talk. Bye for now.